Yeah, it was a good time, honey, under the sky. Yeah, it was a good time, honey, just you and I. Feeling alright.
Hey, welcome to All Wheels Podcast. I'm Evan. I'm here with Max and Brady. What's up, dudes?
Yep.
No, I've heard better. Do it again.
You gotta
Do
do
it
better.
again.
No,
wasn't
I'm a one-shot pony.
All right.
Oh,
Hey,
he blew-
everybody.
He blew his load on the first.
That was it.
I can't even.
I'll
Damn
do it for
dude.
him.
All right. There we go. That's
There
what
it
I want
was.
to hear.
That's right.
That's what it should sound like.
That's Max Mackey's catchphrase.
Yeah.
I don't know what Brady's is.
Yeah, well, Brady's been copying Max
Yeah.
the whole time.
I have been doing the editing, so
Yep. That's right.
Oh, yeah. Just
Take it right out.
adding it in every time.
all
So
right.
what's up, guys?
Thanks for inviting us back into your ears.
Absolutely.
That's a really weird way to say that.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, all right. Well, welcome back. So we're hitting wait, what did we just say? This is episode
Yeah, we're on
15,
round 2
right?
of barn finds.
Well, that's the topic, but number 15, that's a big number, right?
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's pretty rad.
Maybe I'll go make a drink or get a glass of wine or
Yeah,
something.
you should probably celebrate.
All right. Water's not cutting it.
15, what's impressive to me is that, 15 is a good number, but we've managed to consistently post an episode every week. For
On
15
time.
episodes.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
I think we
pretty
dumped
awesome.
5 at the start, but then we've kept up from that regularly, which
Yeah.
is solid. That's pretty impressive, I gotta say.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
We're taking it serious, which is something we
Yeah.
didn't quite do on Motorbike Mondays.
No, definitely not. But we learn to if we're gonna put in the time, we might as well
Yeah.
make it happen regularly. So
Absolutely.
so that's cool. That's a good number. But tonight we're talking about Barn Find Motorcycles Part 2, which we started last week, and we're gonna keep the discussion going. We don't really have like detailed notes for this. We're just gonna kind of talk through it how we would do it. We've all kind of resurrected old bikes before, so we're just going to keep the discussion going because I think it was pretty interesting last time and useful. So, but we'll
Mhm.
kind of try and talk about like some actual details. I feel like we were
Yeah.
more, like theoretical last week,
We
which was
were-
good. Which was good, but
we were excited and it was still on topic.
Yeah.
But this one will actually have something to provide, I'd say,
Yeah.
information for you,
Yeah.
for everyone.
Yeah. Absolutely.
no, I think we can be a little more specific this time, but we'll have some good info for sure.
Yeah.
But let's talk about what's in the shop. What's been going on? Who wants to start?
Yeah.
What have you been?
Well, I'm
working on?
gonna skip my my motorcycle in the shop because I'm gonna talk about it
Yes.
during our
Yeah.
episode. But
You
what I
skipped that.
did today was I got my beautiful 1984 Westphalia Vanagon out from hibernation.
What is the miles on that again? I'm always impressed. Say it.
247,000.
That's so rad.
That's
and
when
this,
the speedometer
this thing
broke.
is clean AF. Like
It's
it
clean.
is a really nice van, and then you see the miles on it, you're like, what the hell?
Yeah. I
That's
got it.
really
I got
cool.
real lucky that I got it from. It was really. I'm the 4th owner, and the first 2 owners, it was garaged its whole life. The 3rd owner, sadly, it was outside in the Colorado sun at an apartment building. But the inside was great, and the motor, it's always been well taken care of. And
Yeah.
so
Nice.
all I did was pull the cover off, and I put a nice sunbrella cover on it this
Yeah.
winter, and pulled it off and washed it and vacuumed out the
Sunbrella,
inside.
is that like a canvas or like
It's
nylon?
like what they use
tarp?
for boat like bimini tops and
Yeah,
stuff.
it doesn't
got, like
fade.
sun blocker fabric.
Yeah,
Oh, I
it doesn't
see.
fade in the sun. It's a good. I mean, it was expensive, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
It was cut and made for a Vanagon, so
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
cool.
sweet. Has that motor ever been rebuilt?
definitely,
It has.
yeah. It's
Okay.
got even
That's a lot
just-
of miles on motor.
I know. Just recently, it had a head gasket done, and then I did all the fuel lines. And
Did you have the head
both
gasket
tuned
done,
up.
or it was
the guy
before-
I bought it from had just
Okay.
done the head gasket and all new brakes? So,
But do you think the motor's like been out, like complete rebuild?
I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
I would assume so.
Can those go those kind of miles without?
I
major
don't know.
wear?
I don't think so. I'm sure it's been. I would assume it's somewhere it's been rebuilt because it runs so good. I mean, I got this
Yeah.
thing. I did a full tune, all new fuel pump, fuel filter,
Yeah.
all new fuel lines. I did like the basic stuff to make sure it was solid, and then I drove it 3,800 miles down into
Yeah,
Baja,
that
Mexico,
was
and it
rad.
ran like a top, man. It just,
What was it that broke though? I remember
It was
a
the
couple
coil.
days out, something failed.
one day, this first day out, I lost a coil.
The ignition coil failed.
Yep.
That's what.
Yeah.
Okay.
And luckily I bought because I had done what we've talked about many times. I got on one of the forums and asked some real pertinent questions. Hey, I'm headed to Baja. What should I bring?
Yeah.
And people gave me like really complete lists of what I should pack.
Yeah.
And one of the things I brought was underneath the bench seat on the back. When you open it, it's just a huge storage area. So I had full toolkit, fuel lines, an extra fuel filter. I had a coil, plugs, plug wires, cap, rotor. I brought everything.
Sawdust
quarts
for
of
the
oil.
transmission.
Remember, you were in like
Sawdust.
sawdust for the transmission.
There was some sawdust in Mexico, so I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you do? I remember though, you were in New Mexico or something, trying to track down one part or something.
Well, it was because I was because I used my coil on day one when I was still in Colorado, and then I was headed into Baja.
Oh, you were just
and I
getting
wanted a backup. I wanted a spare in
okay,
case.
Got it.
I just started to overthink. I was like, well, it failed. What if I've got a short and it's going to fail again? And
Yeah.
down in Mexico, you can get any single part for the 1600 air cooled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
But the coil for the 1.9 fuel injected water cooled motor is totally different coil.
Yeah.
You know what's funny though? you went down to San Felipe like what 4 months before we went down there on bikes.
Yeah.
You on the way in the desert had an electrical part fail that you should have replaced before leaving.
Yeah.
And then I feel like all of that was just a precursor to exactly what happened to us on Harleys taking the same trip.
So ridiculous.
And we should have just learned from you in the van.
Yep. Change
and
the
replace
electrical
voltage
stuff out
regulators
before
and
you
ignition
go,
coil.
or pack of backup in your saddlebags. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So anyway, that was kind of what's in my shop. I'm happy to have the van back out. Of course,
Nice.
It fired right up, ran like a champ. I drove it around,
Nice.
and I'm happy as can be. So
That's
that
awesome.
that was my shop.
That thing's cool. Nice. What about you?
I haven't had too much really going on. I'm getting like really, really close to like finally start working on my Triumph. I've already been doing some stuff that is just kind of in front of me. I haven't, even though last episode I said I was going to reach out to that Poppy's Patina company.
Oh yeah.
I haven't done that yet. I think I'm likely and probably just going to jump into it and give it a shot. But it's down to kind of finishing my immediate parts that I know I need for this project, getting that parts list together, and kind of I'm at the point now where I even started looking into like, do I want a horn? And like, if I have a horn, what I want it to sound like. So I was like looking up, like, yeah, I'm probably I'm not gonna put a horn in it at least right away. But because it's such a small car, like right now, like wheel fitment has been very tricky.
Yeah.
It has a Mustang 2 type suspension conversion up front, so I have at least rack and pinion and independent front end suspension. And coilovers too.
Yeah.
So because it's all kind of packaged in there pretty tightly and it's a really narrow car, wheel fitment has always been an issue because the firewall has been pushed forward a bit. And on there prior, this was originally, I don't know, 20 years ago, when this was first kind of on the road. And tire selection and rim selection was, it was probably
changed a lot.
It definitely has. And so only a 14-inch front rim could fit up front with, I think it was like a 195, like 50 or something like that.
Severely limited on option.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even be able to find 14-inch rim tires at this point. Unless it came off like a scooter or something.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, when I ordered my tires for the Fiat, which is even way more modern, they had they had nothing in stock. They had to order anything that fit my car. They had to order.
You already had to put tires. It's because you're putting so many HPs to the ground.
That's it. Just cranking. The only reason I got tires was because it came with brand new winter tires.
Oh, got it. Well, it's all those electrovolts you're pumping.
It is, dude. It's blasting. It's basically like Thor. Every time I get in it.
So, so another thing too, why like the 14 was in the front, and there was a 15 in the rear.
Yeah.
So that was a lot easier, of course. And before, like the car was kind of set up for like pro touring kind of styling. That was like really big.
Is this
like
the way
early
your dad set
2000.
it up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I did want to change like that too. Like it has like rally rims on it, and which it looks good, but I kind of wanted, like, since I'm gonna be like changing everything, like putting like a Japanese motor in it now too.
Yeah.
Kind of wanted to play on that and kind of fuse it a little bit more.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So I've been looking into rims, and I mean, it's difficult. So I was looking into 15. I was doing a lot of measurements and using a lot of like tire stretch calculators and stuff that I found to get you kind of roughly to see what your fitment can be.
Yeah.
Dude, rim and tire fit or wheel fitment is, oh my gosh, I've never really had to do it. It is so challenging.
I don't even really know where to start to figure that out on a totally custom project.
Yeah.
That's like a lot of measurement and then a lot of research, to be sure.
Yeah. So I've done it in the past with like bag trucks and like on the Suburban that it's static, but
Are you talking about like offset and all that stuff?
Yeah, offset and like
brakes and everything.
Yeah, but with like larger, older trucks, there's like plenty of room for activities under each fender.
Nice job.
So it's not like it's kind of like, what style do you want, and then there's a rim for you,
right?
But with this, like, I'm not only super restricted on space, but also styling too.
Yeah.
So I know I'm going to have to use wheel spacers, which I'm totally fine with. I mean, it's a light car.
I ran those on my off-road truck for a long time, and I never.
I mean,
sure
if you do it right, you can do it. But I'm not putting like 3-inch freaking.
I was about to say, you don't have to be ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah. And because the offset is so different in the style of rim that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And also I've always done backspacing. That's how I've done all my measuring on wheels.
Yeah.
And in this world, it's all offsets. So I kind of had to, like, for a while, I've got it down now, but like had to like reverse like what my mind was thinking relating to backspacing.
You know, if they taught math in high school, like based around figuring out rad rims for your car,
yeah,
a lot more people would pay attention.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, something like applicable would be great.
Yeah. Like, you know, custom rim 101, and you learn how to calculate offset and backspacing to fit rad wheels on your car. Like that, I'd pay attention.
Yeah.
So thank God to like these calculators that they have, like offset calculators, because that's kind of what I've been just inputting all the different rim options that I'm seeing that could possibly work with tires. So I'm going to have to do a slight stretch on these tires,
right, just
to get clearance. There's one, oh man, I wanted to shout it out. It has been like, it's permanently like in one of my tabs. Yeah, it's called willtheyfit.com. That has been like a lifeline for me.
Wow.
So what's really cool about this one is if you put in your rim specs that you currently have on the car, that obviously fit, or you can tell, or whatever, you can, let's just say they fit. So you put in those rim specs and tire specs, and then you put in the option that you're thinking of changing them to. And then they have a laid out, like,
it like graphs it for you.
Yeah, exactly. And it tells you how much poke it increases, how much it goes back in, like the diameter. It also even tells you like the speedometer correction needed.
That's killer.
Oh my goodness. It is, like I said, been a lifeline for me.
Do they tell you like where it just won't work, or
no, because they don't know. They're not specific on what you've done to the vehicle or even what vehicle it is. Right. So if say you have a rim and tire setup that's on there, that works, it can give you an overlay and at least give you some numbers that you can add to or remove, whatever the case be.
Evan, put it in. You want to put 44s on your truck,
dude? I'm going extreme. I'm trying to see if I can crash.
I mean, it'll let you do it. I made a mistake on some of the numbers here, like on the rim diameter, and I added like a 0 behind 17, and
Yeah.
it'll lay it out for
it'll
you.
plot it. I can see that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm running a 550 16 on my 6-inch wide wheel.
Yeah. So I've been
awesome.
using that, and then going back and referencing, okay, like, do I have clearance for this? Because I need the frame rail is super close. I have clearance issues there. I have clearance issues to the firewall, and let alone the fender itself too.
Right.
So only by this website and this calculator I've been using, I found out I can, with the right stretch on a tire, I can fit a 17-inch rim on it.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
And then now that I'm in 17, my rim options explode.
Yeah. Everything.
My tire options are endless.
Yeah.
And the rear's no problem. There's plenty of room for any of that.
Damn, good find on this website. I've never heard of
dude.
it. That's
I
cool.
don't even remember how I found it, but it's literally been open on my phone. I've had a reserve tab for, I'd say, the past 2 months.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's really good.
I love stuff like this. There's all these rad websites that people have made, and like you would have never.
Yeah, and it's so
you
specific too. Like that is all that website does.
Yeah,
that's great.
Well, they got to be selling wheels or something, right?
Do you know what? I haven't even gone past that one page where the
I'm never
formula
gonna buy
is.
anything from them. I don't care.
No, why not?
Oh yeah, if you scroll down.
Oh yeah,
is there more?
Wheels. Well,
okay.
they link to driftworks.com to sell shit, but the
okay, gotcha.
Like
so yeah, I mean, huge shout
cool.
out if you guys gals are doing any kind of wheel change. Even if you're certain, like someone on the forum is running it, go through that and just make sure, like, and it gives you, like, you saw like that graph that like tells you how much it increases or decreases, whatever, in every aspect.
Yeah.
It was game and life changing for me. So
nice.
So now that I have kind of parameters set and know where my limits are and what I'm still going to have to modify a few things. Firewall being one, and I'll probably have to roll the fender a little bit, not stretch it, but at least just roll the
but
lip.
you're a hell of a lot closer to the right starting point.
Yeah,
now.
Definitely. So I'm at the point now where like I'm going to start probably buying a single rim, and then doing some test fitting on it.
Nice. That's cool, man. That's good progress.
That's kind of been what's going on.
I bought a boat. That's my
nice
new thing. Well, me and a couple other guys bought a boat. I guess we're splitting it, but
nice. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I swore I'd never own a boat again. I was like really over boating, but from San Diego, like I just saltwater boats sucked. We had one for years, and it was just so much work. And no matter how well you took care of it, it was a nightmare. But anyways, here we're like right by a couple really nice lakes. We have 2 lakes within 15 minutes that are awesome, and then Carter Lake's like 30 minutes away maybe or something. Yeah. So we've got these really good lakes, fresh water, like mountain lakes are awesome. And so I'm like, okay, like I'll do this again. The wife really wanted one, and I was like, all right. And anyways, I'd been looking for a while, and I was just like, you know what? I'm in no rush. If something pops up, I'll do it. If not, whatever. And out of nowhere, this guy posted it's a 99 Malibu response, so like a ski boat with a 350 in it, direct drive with an open bow, and it was like in great condition. It was just like holy shit. And the guy had posted it for $6,000. So I saw this like with a nice double axle trailer, and I was just like, oh my god. Oh, wow. I've been seeing that boat type selling for $20,000 all day long here.
Wow. I just pulled up photos because I saw it, but I forgot what it was.
Yeah, look up Malibu Response LX.
When you think of a boat, that's exactly what you think of.
Yeah, I think so. It's cool. I mean, it looks good. I mean, it's what I think of for a ski boat. I always had like wakeboard boats, and this is a little bit in between. It's definitely more of a water ski boat, but
I mean, obviously, I think of a jet boat when I think of a boat, but
yeah, no, it's no jet boat.
No, that is but cool.
This thing was just in really nice shape. It came with like great trailer. The boat was in nice shape. Needed a good cleaning, but like it was fine. And the dude still had it winterized and like all plastic wrapped and stuff. So I got him on the phone. I was on Facebook, and I sent him my phone number, and I was just like, I'm not going to waste your time. Like, I'll give you cash. And I thought, like, if it's even close to as nice as it looks, like, deal. And he got blown up, of course, with 10 billion messages. And I'd given him my number. So he calls me and he's like, if you're serious, yeah. So I ended up having to pay a little more than he asked for it because he had so much interest in it. But yeah, but anyways, picked it up. It's awesome. Took it out on Saturday and running around a bit, and it's
nice.
It's in great shape. It needs new steering cables. The steering cable's like 6 years old and is frozen. It's horrible. Like you could barely turn the wheel, but the motor's in great shape. I mean, runs perfect. It's got a decent amount of hours on it. I was looking at it. It's like 1,100 hours on the motor, which is fairly high, but it's, you can tell the motor is like, you could eat off of it. It's insane. Like you could tell it's been really, really well maintained. It's been used a lot, but it's been taken care of.
Yeah. So it's on the Chevy 350. It's like a Marine, like 350.
Well, I think
what is it?
Yeah, Chevy probably sells it. It's Indmar's the motor company, but I think they just buy Chevy blocks and then use their
gotcha.
They put their manifolds on it and all that stuff. But it's fuel injected. Yeah, it's a 350. I don't think there's anything special about it really.
Cool.
It's 325 horse, fuel injected, and it's all super clean and like, I mean, we drove it around for a couple hours on Saturday. It's great. Yeah.
No,
Other than the steering cable, and what did I come up with? Steering cable. We're gonna put a new top on it because the Bimini top's kind of rotted. And then
say that again.
What
was that? Bimini?
Bimini?
I've never heard that.
What do you call it?
I don't know. The top. I've never
it's
owned
called
a boat.
Bimini top. Oh, you never owned a boat?
No.
Dude, you're sitting here jerking off jet boats all day long. I thought you were like a
I'm
boat
holding
guy.
out. I'm holding out for a jet boat.
That's what they call the little metal frame,
Do they? Oh,
top.
I don't know. I just, it's awesome. I just thought it's a really cool.
Like I didn't make it up.
I didn't think you did. I mean, I used to sail, but I've never done too much like motorboating.
No, that's like a motorboat thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're called that, but yeah, new top and then some new speakers in it because the speakers are crap. So we got some tunes. That's about it.
Nice.
So yeah, I got all the parts ordered. I'm going to fix it up this weekend and then it should be ready to rock for the summer. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun.
That's cool.
Hopefully nothing will break because I really don't enjoy working on boats, but we'll see. Yeah. So, okay. I think that's what we've been doing. So what are we talking about?
Yeah. Well, we were working on, we were talking about barn finds and we were going to continue on from.
So why don't we start with what we talked about you getting the bike, how all that went down. Where are you at now? What's the deal?
Yeah,
well, instead of where he's at now, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine.
I know we're going to be getting into your bike all the way through this, but I think it'd be good to mention, maybe tighten up a little bit of information we got from last episode.
Okay.
Is probably one of the first things you want to do is what Max did, was just give it a good clean and wipe down.
Yeah, true.
And get all of that gunk off.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was honestly like it felt gross to touch it. Like anytime I tried to grab the bag, it had 30 years of like dirt that had blown and then humidity settled. Like it just made my skin feel gross. And all I did was I towed it to one of those do-it-yourself spray washes, and all I used was the pre-soak.
Yeah,
I just pre-soaked the whole thing and let it sit for a minute, and then I went at it with the high pressure.
High pressure, yeah.
No soap, no high pressure soap. I just wanted to get the basic.
What about the spotless rinse?
Well, seeing the pictures, you should have done spotless.
Yeah, it was going to look real good after that.
Yeah,
seeing it the before and after of just that is crazy because then it goes from barn find to sat in a garage.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Seriously, yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
the difference.
Yeah, I think that's always a good. Plus, you want to be somewhat inspired about what you just bought. Mm-hmm. So if you can just go and give it a one over, you'll just be so psyched, and it's just going to look better no matter what. It makes it yours. You just did the first wash as your project.
Yeah, for sure.
That's just that's a good call, Brady. Yeah. And I think the other thing too is, my particular bike sat for 30 years plus.
Mhm.
But barn find might also have just been there for 4 years.
Mhm.
Or,
yeah.
it could be a lot different on the amount of time something has sat. And so I think we've talked about this before, but one of the best ways you're going to find information is get on some sort of forum with knowledgeable people and say, hey, I just got this bike. It's been sitting for, I'm just going to use mine for example, 35 years. And, what things should I look for? And you're going to have to wade through a bunch of crazy answers, but you might find some common themes. Like for my bike in particular,
Mm-hmm.
the common thing everybody has said is you have to pull that transmission out. You have to replace that rear main and the oil seal because it is going to have. It's going
It's
to
just
have
been so dried out.
so
Is that
dry.
just a /5 thing, or
Well, I
Airhead
think it's
in
just
general, or
I
what?
think just
Age.
maybe I'm only asking BMW forums and so BMWs, but they're like it's gonna crack, it's gonna leak, you're gonna soak your clutch, and you're gonna end up doing
Yeah.
it anyway. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
you might as well, even with 12,000 miles. I mean, like I'll post some pictures. The bike is actually very clean and very well preserved,
Mhm.
but with no motor bouncing around. I mean, no oil bouncing around inside that motor.
Did it literally not move for 30 years? Like, is that true? Like, nobody even rolled it around?
So he passed, I want to say, the owner passed away in
84
82
or
or
86.
84, something like that. Well, that's the last time I learned that the mom kept it registered for a couple of years, actually.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
So, because I was like, oh, last time it was registered, but the daughter who I got it from said, no, he passed earlier than that.
Mhm.
So it
Okay.
did go to it sat in their barn. And then some other family member had like a wild hair that they were going to get it going, and they grabbed it and went to another barn, but they never did anything with it. And then they sold that farm and they put the bike back in this barn.
Okay.
And so it has been in a barn, not running.
Mhm.
And this last round was 25 years of it.
Dang.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even that's crazy.
I
That's
know.
a long time.
I know. And I'll post a picture of it on our Instagram, but I've got it taken way down. I got the fairing is off and gone. Some guy came to pick it up. The bags, the trunk, all the racks that he had added. I've got the battery out. I've got the side panels off. I'll start.
That was a lot of money in like touring gear for the time. I'm surprised to have
Yeah.
a bike set up that way and then such low miles on it. It seems interesting.
Well, the only reason there's low miles is because he passed. They wrote
Oh, that's
it a lot.
true. He had the
Yeah.
he had the
Yeah, he wrote
intention
it.
of
They wrote
touring
it.
on
He and his wife wrote it. I mean, it was set up for them to go. They wrote it to the Black Hills a bunch.
Okay.
He's got pictures of it all over the place. And then,
Got it.
and sadly, his heart problem didn't just it was a congenital
Congenital.
heart, and it was hereditary. So he knew it. So it was I think it was years of surgeries, and it kind of took it out of him. So it probably
Yeah.
sat before he
Oh, dang.
passed. Yeah.
Yeah.
The bike itself is a cool story. I feel really privileged and honored to have
Yeah.
this bike.
Definitely.
Yeah, that one deserves to get back on the road for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be
That's
psyched. And I
cool.
used my friend Matt from Euromoto Electric, who we're going to have on as a guest speaker here one of these days.
I did text him tonight, by the way,
All right.
just to see. So we'll see. He hadn't answered, but hopefully
Yeah.
we can have him next week. We'll see.
What's his name? Matt Norman, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. But I drove down to Denver and spent the afternoon with him, and I pulled a huge order for this thing. I'm totally psyched.
How fearful and exciting all at once is that experience.
I'm so psyched, man. This is going to be
Get a
great.
buttload
Yeah.
of parts at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just psyched, and he was like, "This is
Yeah.
a great order." I was like, "Just all the little,
Of course
the
he's
little
pumped.
things."
Yeah. Well,
he's-
Matt, it's awesome. We do we all spend a lot of money with his business,
Yeah.
that's for sure. But he's also, even if we didn't buy a dime from him, he's a great dude too.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
So
he
that-
sounds like you guys
He's
have been
awesome.
talking about him
Yeah.
a lot.
He's building a /5 right now. He's building a /6.
Yes, his
he's
is
building a GSPD. He's definitely hard at work.
Did he show you that custom airbox battery cover that he's putting
Yes.
on the /5? Isn't that cool? He
Yeah.
said we were video chatting yesterday, and he showed me that. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, I had one prototyped when I was working on
To do a one-piece cover for the airbox and starter.
yeah,
or,
well,
battery-
so that
not battery,
airbox
sorry,
cover that's
airbox
on
and
top
starter.
of the motor
Yeah.
is relocating the battery there because I was going to put just individual filters on it.
Yeah.
Relocating the battery there and then making a cover similar to the to the stock one.
So he has this mocked up already with remove the circular air filter, right? So the airbox cover would be empty. Remove the starter cover from the top. So in the air filter area, he has a small lithium battery and the ignition coil, and then still has a starter in the top. But then he sells this one piece aluminum cover that kind of like replicates the starter cover, but then it's one piece at the back to go back and like streamline the air filter area.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool.
It's enough room to hide a battery and a coil in there. So by the time you do that, you can have almost no wiring.
Yeah, exactly. And everything is right there. You just have some leads to the headlight and
yeah,
you're running like 4 wires. That's it.
Yeah,
it's pretty nuts.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, for my particular bike, just to keep us back on track. So my particular bike has its own set of needs, obviously. But if yours is, or your project that you're looking at, if yours is not, you may not have to go that deep, I think is the point. Like if I like Evan's bike, your bike sat for a little bit, your R90/6.
Yeah.
But not for 30 years.
No, I don't think 30 years. I think my guess is mine was ridden at some point in the last 20, but certainly not like regularly, So I don't know. I also made a lot of assumptions based on mine having an odometer set at 25K. And then after getting it running and back on the road, I found that the drive gear was actually slipping for the odometer. Oh. So the odometer wasn't working, and I don't know for how long. I fixed it. I glued the drive gear back in place and it works fine, but that makes me question, like, okay, my assumptions, like my bike, who knows, could have double that. I doubt it. I bet it has 30,000 instead of 25,000 on it. But
how did you fix your drive gear?
So I found it on ADV Rider. It's a common problem with the cable. They're all, I guess all the Speedos were cable driven. On the /6 and probably /5 odometers. So they're all driven from a single gear on the main shaft that turns the odometer.
Right.
And it's a metal gear pressed onto a metal shaft, and it's a press fit. And then over time, like the grease on there dries up and stuff. And instead of any of the other gears stripping or anything, that drive gear just starts slipping on the shaft.
And
so the shaft is spinning,
machines down the shaft.
Well, it actually doesn't seem to hurt anything. It just slips. And so when it starts slipping, it doesn't engage and drive the odometer wheels, but it doesn't actually hurt anything. So the fix is like, you have to disassemble the whole thing. I just looked at some pictures. It took me 20 minutes, take it apart, find that gear, I used the like gel kind of super glue from the side with like a pick, and I super glued all around it to reattach that gear to the shaft, let it dry, put it back together. It works perfectly.
Nice.
So it's an easy fix, but it's also a common problem on those odometers. And yeah, realistically, who knows?
I mean, if that does fail, I would think just throwing some solder or something in there, just flux the crap out of it, and then
you might be able to. My guess is the gear looks like aluminum and the shaft is steel, is my guess. But I don't know. That's just from looking at it. I don't know that you could solder it reasonably well, because they would have different temperatures where they get hot enough. But maybe. I'm not sure. But the glue worked fine.
If you get it too hot, then just fuse them together.
Yeah. Well, I did try epoxy first, and that was a horrible idea because I got epoxy everywhere.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
I ended up having to go back and like chisel it out of the teeth of the gears where it was a mess.
Oh,
so anyway, super glue is my recommendation.
There you go.
JB Weld.
Yeah. Actually, JB Weld would probably work fine. I used the clear JB Weld 5-minute version.
Yeah.
And that stuff sucks. It's really, really bad.
That's for like woodworking, isn't it? I think that's like for wood. I see a lot in like knife making.
I didn't read the box. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you can specify what it's for.
It just said epoxy. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Well, something you did bring up where the state of your bike is at, Max, is you've got it somewhat disassembled.
Yep.
And I'd say probably that's right on par with something I would do is, and I'm sure Evan as well,
Yeah.
is once you get all the muck and dirt off of it, kind of start stripping away layers and taking note as far as like what you're finding each one, possible failure points. And it's pretty easy to tell, especially like any kind of movable joints or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and rubber, anything
mhm.
rubber.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
toast.
You just have to replace it if you're going to go in. There's no reason to try to.
I did every piece of rubber
salvage
on
thing,
mine because
you almost need to have. You need to have like multiple lists. You have the list of your approach. Like, what are you going to do physically on the bike?
Mhm.
And then you need a list of the parts that join up with that. Like, so for like mine, transmission out. Okay, so what parts do I need while the transmission is out? I need the rear main. I need a new oil seal, yada, yada, so on and so forth. And then, so BMW is where the push rod tubes are on the block. Those are known fail.
They're gone.
So you need to, okay, so I'm taking the top end off. Let's get, you can reseal. So you need to have like either multiple whiteboards or multiple lists.
I feel like I look at it like in two criteria. It's timeline and then budget. And then I decide like, okay, how much am I willing to spend on this? And then how long can it be apart? Because when do I want to ride it? Now, if I was back home in San Diego, I probably wouldn't care about timeline as much because anytime I finish it, it's rideable. Here, that made me rethink things because I'd be like, okay, well, I really only have 6 months of great riding weather, so I need to finish it. If I want to ride it a lot this year, I got to do it in this time frame. That's why I cut some corners, not cut corners, but eliminated some unnecessary stuff on mine because I thought like, whatever. I could pull the motor in the winter and polish stuff if I want to, or if I want to paint it or whatever. I'm going to leave all that alone.
The priority was just getting it on the road.
And then when you set a budget, it's like, I don't always stick to it, but at least having an idea, because that'll start eliminating stuff like that is unnecessary. And then that kind of factors into timeline too. It's like, okay, well, shocks are expensive and but they are going to affect riding. So it's like, where does that fall in? What's more important? Are these shocks usable? Well, yeah, they're usable, but they suck. Is that going to make riding it pretty horrible? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like when you start looking at it that way, you can start making cuts on stuff based on what's important. Maybe if it's a big project and you don't want to stick to a time frame, that'll change things too.
Yeah. Plus you want to decide whether you're going to, which I think this is kind of an important direction. I always consider like refurbish or restore. Like, what is the goal with this project? Are you going to make it a concourse bike, or do you just want to ride it? And that'll change your budget.
Yeah,
absolutely.
A ton.
Not to say if you refurbish it means that you can't restore it later on.
Yeah, typically everything you do there
absolutely
is the baseline mechanical work that's got to be done anyway.
Exactly.
You're still going the same road. It's just you're not going.
It just
quite
might
as far.
get you on the road faster to enjoy it till you want to jump into that next stage.
Yeah.
But one thing that I want to put in there, I would say, and this is just for me, and granted, my experience is a little different because when I got a donor bike, I knew I was going through everything regardless. But if it's just a project similar to, say, Max, if you have this project, I would like to focus on, okay, what is it that I have here regarding the motor?
Right.
What I would first start doing is still like getting in some guts, just seeing anything that kind of sticks out to me. At the bare minimum, I would try and test to see if that motor is actually spinning, if it's seized, and work on that first before moving forward, because that clears a lot of questions that possibly could be in that bike.
Yeah.
But granted, like I would still want to at least pull heads and jugs or whatever BMW calls them, cylinders, and take a look to see actually physically and visually what you have in there before at some point before deciding if you want to rebuild the motor or if you need to.
Yeah.
Well, prioritizing for sure. Like, what's the point of buying new blinkers if your motor is seized?
But what you're working on matters too, because if it's a bike like a /5, you already know the bottom end's bulletproof, especially with the miles on it. Like there's no way there's any critical lower end problems on it.
Yeah,
right?
I'm definitely making some assumptions.
But
you know,
I mean,
for sure.
we're not only talking about BMWs here also.
No, but my point is know
Right.
your bike. Like do the research on your bike, because you might find out that model was prone to whatever, you know, it might be way more realistic that you do strip it all the way down.
But also don't assume, because I mean, say even in Max's situation, like who knows if there was a typhoon that came through and that motor wasn't fully sealed up. It's unlikely, of course, but the
in Iowa.
yeah, like I said, it's unlikely, but
Isn't it typhoon
Yeah,
that
good
comes off
job.
the water?
it was just the most dramatic word I could think
It was
of in my
great.
head
Good
right
one.
off the
It was
bat.
great.
But like who's to say, like at some point like water got filled in there and there was no oil, or it leaked out and then filled with
Yeah.
water, corrosion starts setting in, so that just does havoc
Yep.
to where it lies.
But I would take that risk, you know, not
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think it says anything about not taking the risk if it's pretty unlikely, but
yeah.
it's still good just not to assume, like even just getting some eyes on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you have to split the cases on BMW, so it's kind of like a risk really just checking on it.
To check on what?
Oh no, you can just pull the cylinders off and
Yeah, you don't have
get
to
a
do
good
shit.
look at
It's
it.
Yeah.
so easy
Yeah.
on those.
You only have to split the cases on old, like ones from the early 60s
Yeah.
to slash.
But that also
Okay.
makes
Yeah.
pulling the transmission more difficult.
Yeah.
Well, not even more difficult.
Yeah.
You don't have to split the case, but you do have to separate the transmission from the motor, you know. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, I guess bringing it up because it's still something important to at least be certain or confident on,
yeah.
because that's something that'll likely show up if you decide, you know what, bottom end's fine, I'll just do a top end, whatever. And for most of the part, like bottom ends are super strong on definitely older motorcycles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really overbuilt.
Yeah, especially with low
Mhm.
miles. Like the mileage will tell you a little bit.
Yeah,
too.
but the only time that's going to come up again is when you're excited and like wanting to fire it up for the first time.
Yeah. Well, we talked
Yeah.
about that last night, and I really thought, like, I was saying, dude, don't even try and fire it up. Like, we already know the motor's stuck because it's been sitting so long.
Yeah.
It doesn't turn. Okay, that's fine. Just pull the heads. Like, who cares? You're going to have to do it
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, something
There's-
like
there's
that.
no point
Absolutely.
trying to
Mhm.
unstick the motor because you're going to have to replace push rod seals and all this stuff anyways. So, like, why even bother? Just go ahead and start,
Mhm.
Yeah.
at least take the heads off and start getting, you know, oil in
Yeah.
it and stuff from the top. You know, who cares? You're not saving yourself any time by doing it through the spark plug hole when you already know
Yeah,
know
exactly.
you're gonna have to do it. So just
Right.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Just
say
do it.
like
Yeah.
if you do break free them or get the motor free, or it's already freed up, I would put somewhat of effort to just to hear it run, even for a moment, if it's just living off of carb cleaner or ether.
Isn't that a bad idea though? If it was ether, isn't that a bad idea though? If it was seized, let's say it was seized from like rusted
Oh,
rings or
I'm saying
something.
if it was seized and you break it free, that just helps with
That's-
disassembly. But if it is free and there's some movement, it's not making any noise, and you get many cycles through it and it's smooth, that's at the point where, okay, you know, let me just see if I can get this to fire, just to hear it, even some pops. It's like, okay, more likely we got something here. But that's something you don't want to encounter when you're so far, so deep financially, time-wise into a project, to find out, okay, now I have to start sourcing, say, another motor or
Yeah.
strip it all back down. That's a major delay, especially if it's time sensitive for ride season
Yeah.
or whatever. So just
Yeah.
eliminating possible bummers, really.
I think that's good advice, and factor in the specifics of the motorcycle. So I would do that on a CB or KZ or any like an inline 4-cylinder motor that it's going to be a bitch to pull the head and cylinder on.
That's
Then
not that hard.
I
to be
would go
honest
that
with you.
route.
I'm really used to them.
Well, you've done a ton of them. I've done one and I hated it. But
some of the models, some models, the cam chain's such a bastard.
oh,
to
dude, they're
get
all
off.
horrible.
Yeah.
I don't like it. But my point is, to me, that job sucks. So I would put in the extra work to hear it run, to unstick it and hear something. On a bike like the BMW, I wouldn't, because it's too easy to disassemble.
Maybe I'm just trying to keep us honest here as far as like all aspects
But I know,
of motorcycles.
yeah, but we're talking about everything in general, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, you're right in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are, but not everyone listening is a BMW nerd. So
No, I'm just using that as our example, but it does really apply to that particular bike.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, approaching a BMW
it's kind of different, I guess.
in my opinion, is different than any other 4-cylinder Japanese. You know, when people ask me often, like, I kind of wanted to get into a vintage bike. What should I? I'm like, man, just get a BMW, because
Yeah.
it's so easy and it's so laid out there, and it all makes sense the way it's laid out.
Yeah.
And it's just, you can do things with very basic amount
Right.
of skill. And it's a lot of accomplished feelings when you own an old vintage BMW.
Yeah, for like very little effort and special knowledge. Well, I don't want to say effort, but
Right.
like very little like specialized knowledge, because it's simple.
Yeah.
But that's true. It totally
Yeah.
depends on the bike. Now that you say that, because I'm thinking like, I wouldn't take my own advice on my Triumph because it's not rocket science, but like it's way more work to pull the top end and cylinder and stuff off of the Triumph. Not even that it's hard. It's
not
just
really.
like more. I'm not saying it's hard. It's just the BMW is easier. So what I'm saying is,
Okay,
you're
well,
right.
I need to knock you guys off of like BMW E's, like and try to
clearly-
generalize a little
You
bit.
clearly haven't had enough of them that you're not.
Oh,
that you're not-
absolutely. I'm probably gonna try to not indoctrinate or get indoctrinated from you to the
Oh,
life of
dude.
this whole podcast.
No, you need one.
I will have one. I already know
They're
this.
awesome.
I'm gonna put that
No,
off. As
but
long
my
as possible.
point is, it applies to the motorcycle, because what I'm doing is agreeing with you because I'm thinking too much about BMWs. And in general, you're right, because I wouldn't do that. Like my old Triumph, I would absolutely try and get that motor running to know before taking it apart. It's not that hard, but it's more work. So
yeah.
Anyways, so you're right.
I don't know. That's something that I feel is very important to at least have, whether it's a BMW, so don't worry about it, bottom, it's fine, whatever. Or if it's another bike, like just having some kind of certainty before moving on a project. And before you start spending a lot of money and putting too much time into it.
Yeah.
But
I actually said that to Evan. Actually, I actually land in your ballpark. Sometimes I'm like, if I can free this motor up, put a little bit of PB blaster and kick the starter, and came out that easy. I was like, I think I might just fire it and make sure. But then Evan's point was, with this bike in particular, that's just silly, because you're going to have to take the top end off anyway. And with the knowledge that we've based or, gained over the years, we know the bottom end's fine. The top end's going to need to come off. I'm going to need to hone the cylinders. Just going to do it,
Yeah, absolutely.
Reason. But
and I completely
almost
agree with
any
that
other
also.
bike.
I'm not opposed to putting in 30 minutes though of soaking it and trying to turn it over. Don't get me wrong. That's easy and worth a shot. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying don't sacrifice months of your project waiting for that to unstick. That's my point.
Yeah, right. And honestly, like even I wasn't even talking about like a frozen motor. Like if it was a frozen motor, I'm not trying to get it to run. But pretty much, I already know what needs to happen, and I don't want to chance say gouging more, like the rings could have broke and start gouging the cylinder walls, and then it could be going past the serviceable bore for the whatever that cylinder is.
Did you save any CBs that were frozen?
Yeah, no, a bunch of them.
For
like
sure.
I said, like I tried to get as donor bikes the worst examples possible, knowing that I was going to have to redo everything or going to rebuild everything.
Yeah.
So if I could save money on the purchase, then I mean, it's a lot of sales guys or flippers will say you make your money on the buy, not on the sell.
Yeah.
So if I could buy cheaper, I potentially could be making more money in the end.
Yeah, because you already know what your process is going to be. Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, what about stuff like this is something I thought of on my bike, and I wish I wouldn't have done this. I bought, before I even pulled the wheels off, I had bought stuff like cables, carb kits, plugs, like all the stuff I knew I was doing no matter what. Right. And I went ahead and bought new brakes, front and rear, for the BMW. And then it turned out it did need new front pads, and not because they were worn out. They were almost
soaked.
brand new, but they were soaked from the master cylinder leaking and stuff. They were ruined. But but the rear drum shoes were like absolutely perfect, and they were already arced in perfectly, but I didn't check them, and I bought a $40 set of shoes that I'm keeping. I'll use them eventually on that bike, but that was a waste of money up front. Like those things have, I don't even know, 15,000 miles on them or something. It's going to take me years to put them miles on them.
Yeah. It's easy to get excited when you're ordering parts, when you really ought to dig in, get that list started first. You know,
I started letting it creep and adding stuff to the like necessary list and making assumptions, and then throwing away money. That those shoes will be there in 5 years when I need them. I should have bought them later.
Yeah. Well, I literally I drove all the way down there today and got cables and forgot to get the rear main seal. So I'm like, oh, nice. Jesus.
So moving on from, I guess, the confidence or certainty that you have something moving forward on, as you guys start getting into it, definitely start just making a list of things that need to be replaced, and also things that just should be replaced, and kind of I usually have that like on a secondary list.
Yeah.
So I write down a list of, okay, I need this, and it's usually like what is required for me to start moving forward in the process that I want to move on.
Yeah.
And then have a second list, and I'll even break that down if needed. I'll start bringing them back over to, I need this to move forward. But inspecting the bike, definitely, like as you're digging more into it, or even just on knowns like that rear main seal, that can easily just go on it right off the bat, even visually, if it looks fine.
One thing I thought of is transmission. Like, I know you're going to pull it out anyways to do the main seal, but you might as well run it through all the gears. Even if the motor's stuck, you could at least rack the wheel enough to get it to shift gears and make sure that it shifts correctly into all of them. You know, that's not as good as riding it, but that could point you to something you might need a heads up on if or when you pull the transmission, you know? So that's a good idea.
That's good advice.
Yeah. And that could give you, say, some indication, like even how, if it's feeling sloppy or if it's not going into gear, that's something that could be difficult to notice when you're in there, because you don't have any previous reference of any indication of it.
Well, and it could tell you stuff like, is the clutch releasing? Like the lever moves, but is the clutch actually releasing?
These are also things like, as you dive into it, you will find. I mean, if the clutch plates are sticking, you're going to know trying to pull those plates off.
But my point is, if you knew ahead of time, you could order them with your parts list, so they're sitting there when you have your transmission.
Yeah, but
apart.
Generally, for BMWs, yes, because those are a big job. I remember that now.
Well,
it's like an auto
you're
clutch,
typically not pulling the transmission and putting it back in one day, unless it's really you're just replacing a clutch quickly or something.
Gotcha.
And you already have a flywheel ready to go and everything's ready to rock.
Yeah,
on a BMW,
again, something very specific to BMWs
because of their motor design. Yeah, true. On a Japanese bike or a side
it's right
clutch,
there. Take you
no
5 minutes to pull it, and then see right there.
Right.
Yeah, you can like lay it down on its side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But it still applies. You could run the transmission through the gears and see how that feels, and that kind of stuff. On that bike, you'll know quickly if the clutch plates are stuck or not.
Yeah. So without getting like too specific, like into details.
No, I want to talk part numbers on.
I know, that's why I was stopping you guys. I could sense that that's the direction we were heading.
Well, we're almost at an hour anyway. So
I feel like this is a hard. Well, as you can tell, I feel like we've all kind of done this in different ways, and even then, it's a difficult process if you know what you're doing. But I guess the main thing to keep in mind is, like, if you're doing this for a project and you're having some fun, it's okay to do it however you come up with. Just because like we've done it some ways or have some ideas or whatever, throw this into your toolbox and like have some ideas of ways other people did it. But like, if you're not on a time crunch, you can also just tear the whole thing apart and start, and start seeing what's
enjoy the process of learning through these things. Like it's It's so great. I mean, it's so much fun to dig in, and every time you do this, you come up with a new way to accomplish something, a bit more knowledge. You have you just add things to your checklist. Like, well, I just backed out a transmission and replaced a rear main. Like, I'm excited. I'm excited about this project because I did it when I first had my first Beamer, like in the late '90s. And I had a friend help, and I just, I'm psyched to do it again. My buddy Don Rayford is going to come up, and he's an old BMW guru. So it's like, enjoy the process of learning. Like, if you do bump into something and you don't have the part, it's a 21st century. You can usually overnight it or get it real quick and just take a breather. And
what's crazy is I think about this sometimes. We didn't invent the wheel here. Like, guys were fixing these bikes in the 80s and stuff, and fixing old bikes like way before the internet and YouTube and stuff. What did those guys do?
Well, they had a parts catalog, and then
parts catalogs. Yes,
mail
a piece of paper.
You
just call it in.
Mail a parts order.
God, it's just crazy. It's like,
there's a guy in Fort Collins who still does that. His name, it's called
Classic Touch.
It's an old Classic Touch, old Harley Davidson. And like, you go in there and you're like, oh, I was looking to see if you had a set of gaskets for my Harley exhaust on my Dyna. And he's like, oh, and he literally grabs a
catalog for
old, and he's like, I got to call this in. It'll be here in 3 weeks. I'm like, I can get that. I don't need it. Get it on Amazon. It'll be here in a day.
Call it in.
He's so funny.
I cannot believe
what were those catalogs called? They
Parts Unlimited, and there's tons
Parts
of
Unlimited.
There's V-twin manufacturing and cruiser
really
customizing,
funny,
and there's tons of them.
Yeah,
that's dying off a little bit.
It's funny thing, like even dealerships are like, oh, well, we can get that for you. It'll just blah blah. It's like, no, I didn't really want you to do that. I can get on the internet just like you are and order the same part.
Thanks for the part number.
Thanks
for the part number.
That's hurting. Actually, this is something we should talk about sometime, because I run into this at work all the time when we try and we have distributors and stuff, and we're always dealing with the catalog versus everything's online and good retail direct thing. Talking about how that's changed over the years would be interesting at some point too.
Yeah, I mean, because I grew up like in my VW days, like I still ordered parts like through a catalog.
Yeah.
Well, LMC still sends me a catalog once a year.
I get the Summit Racing catalog, because Summit still prints a big catalog that they mail, and I buy from them pretty regularly for car stuff. And like, I still get a print, not everything on their website, but like they send you a 3/4 inch thick print catalog like 4 times a year.
Yep.
Do you guys still like find yourself like, let me take a look in there and just kind of scrolling around a little bit just to see, like, not that there's like cool stuff in there, but just
in
like
the catalog?
Yeah. Like
dude, sitting on top of my toilet in the basement.
Yeah.
That thing, that's its place every time it shows up.
I still think,
do you remember,
I still think and hope that there still is, like, I mean, it brings me so much joy just knowing, like, I don't even have like a Chevy. And like, but I'll still flip through the catalog. And,
you gotta see what's new.
Yeah.
Do you remember? You remember JC?
Oh
Whitney
God,
catalogs?
yeah. I remember in high
best.
school, I got them in the mail, and then I would take them to school and put them inside my books, and I'd sit there and look through all the horns you could buy,
Jeep parts,
chrome
Jeep tub bodies,
stick on chrome
panels.
panels,
So
and
great.
junk.
Stick on chrome stuff.
Yeah. I was
Whitney.
known to buy some shift knobs actually I had a
Chrome skull.
A skull. Yeah, actually I did.
Better
And-
have lit up, or I'm
No,
gonna be,
it didn't.
Ruby
But
eyes.
My best bud growing up, Adam Stapleton, had a Ford Ranger, and straight out of JC Wood, I remember the day we put it on. He had a chrome Cobra head shift knob with dual
Yes.
light up red LED
God.
lights, with this
That
huge
is
wire
incredible.
running out of the shift knob down the shifter all the way to a cigarette lighter plug in, and he ran that thing forever.
Oh, that is great. So I do want to just to kind of if anything, like a final thought to at least the topic is, I'd say probably one of the main things to figure out very early on into a project like this. And like Max said, it doesn't have to be a barn find. It could be something like varied on bikes, of course. Like it could be 5 years it's sat, it could be 10, 20, no matter what.
Yeah.
it's still something that hasn't run for a long time. Of course, the older or the longer it's sat, likely there's going to be more issues that you have to diagnose and figure out.
Yeah.
But it's a very similar process to, say, excuse me.
Good burp.
What is he doing? You gonna tell us, or are you
about to
just
vomit.
getting the suspense built up?
So it's a very similar process to no matter how long it's sitting, you just might have to dive deeper into it a little bit more. But getting to my point, early on in the process, figure out, I think I briefly mentioned it once already, is what do you have more of? Because doing something like this, it's going to cost one of these two. Is do you have more time or do you have more money? Yeah. So if you have more money to put in the project, you can buy some time from it. So
more complete parts, less
exactly,
rebuilds,
and overdoing the parts, and likely maybe you'd be able to return a lot of it too to recoup some money. If say you don't need it, but if you have more time than money, you're not going to want to blow $3,000, say right off the bat on like, okay, I probably have more parts than I need, but when I need it, I have it. Or if I need it, I have it.
Yeah.
So early on, figure out what you do have more of.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And also say if you do have more time, I mean, that bike could also be one of the most clean. Every piece is polished, touched, whatever.
Yeah.
That if you're waiting on parts, you can still tackle.
Yeah. I made myself do while I was waiting on stuff. I did cleaning and I hate doing that. But I tried to think like, okay, I got to make progress. This is going to have to be done anyway. So sit here and start scrubbing with WD-40 a Scotch Brite. It sucks, but do it. You don't have anything else to do right now. Like, do it.
And that's also something that anyone would, no matter what their knowledge base is,
anybody
can do. Like it's whether this is your 100th restoration or revival, whatever it is, or it's your first one, you're going to have to clean this stuff. You don't have to, but there's always going to be that on the table that any expertise can do.
Well, I found with projects, I get myself in like these big projects sometimes, and then I will delay working on them if all the parts aren't sitting there, because I will just be like, oh, well, what's the point? Everything's not here yet, so I'm not going to do anything. Yeah. And then I always really like, that's so stupid. You're a week away from needing that part anyways. You don't stop working on the whole thing but it's always stuff I don't want to do, So I'm like,
exactly.
I'm going to justify waiting because that part's not here. And it's like, that's ridiculous.
Well, yeah. And it's also kind of like all of the different emotions, the highs and lows that go, or you experience in a project, something like this, no matter how far gone or just needs to be gone through briefly. Like there's a wave of different emotions that go through it. And sometimes you're not feeling it. And sometimes you need a little wind to get you to that next point.
It's almost, I don't want to say better, but like there's an upside to doing it the first time or the first few times because you don't know what parts you hate yet. You don't know like what parts of a rebuild or whatever that you really don't enjoy doing.
You don't know if that master cylinder, if that piston is going to be freaking frozen in there.
But then you do enough of the same type of job and then you realize like, oh man, this part sucks. I don't want to do this because I don't enjoy it. I know I enjoy rebuilding the motor, but I don't want to, whatever, rebuild master cylinder, do the forks, whatever it is. Yeah.
Do the forks.
So it's like, but realistically, and I always think about it now, like when I would get into projects before I had a kid, it was like, I could have entire weekends. I would put 20 plus hours in a weekend working into a bike because I had the time and I was like, I don't have anything else to do. I'd work all day on it. Now I can't do that with the, 3-year-old. So it's like, okay, I got to make little bits of progress every night if I'm ever going to hit the finish line. And it works, but it's hard to stay motivated sometimes when it's like, well, what's the point?
Yeah,
I can only do some little job. This sucks.
Yeah. And for me, like I've got to buy some time at work. Like I can't,
if
I buy some time at work or stay like an hour or so, like after, like I don't have a home shop,
Right.
so where I have to work on my projects is there, and
Yeah.
that time definitely.
Well, that's the main thing to keep in mind is those little pieces of time add up really fast.
Oh, I thought you were going to say those little creatures take up a lot of time.
No, well, they do too. But the point is,
Yeah.
do something. If you're jumping into a project and you want to make progress, do something. And it doesn't feel like much every time you do like 30 minutes at night or whatever, but it is what it is. And that adds up pretty quickly.
And also if you have the ability to, meaning if no one's stopping you, take little parts, say carburetors, take them into your living room, throw on the TV, watch a movie. And like, honestly, like it's you'll find that you are less frustrated. You're in a comfortable environment and you can literally just take time to do whatever. Sure. If it takes a whole movie to do one carb, then that's what it takes.
Yep. I do that all the time. I'll bring a towel, put it on the counter, put the carbs on it, and just be in a warm environment. I'll watch some Seinfeld or something.
Yeah,
it's great.
That's the best. Yeah. I love having a TV in my garage and a heater and stuff. I can sit there and
your garage.
Well, that's awesome. I put a TV in my kitchen because that's the only way I'll actually clean the kitchen now.
Oh, that works. You got to hack the system, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Next is in the bathroom.
No, then you'll never leave.
Yeah.
All right, you guys got anything else to add on this or what?
I don't think so. Hopefully everyone listening could at least get something, or at least motivate them. I think all of us feel that trying to motivate, even if it's one person, hopefully it's more than that, to jump into a project and get over their head, or maybe they have a relative or a friend that has mentioned this bike or this car, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Is to encourage anyone listening to just jump into it.
Yeah. And email us if you've got questions or you got a project in mind and you want to ask some questions. We're happy to help steer you in the right direction.
Well, I feel like people would be surprised how it's honestly like if any of us can do this and bring old shit back from the dead, like anybody can do it, you know. It's just a matter of being willing to put in the time and figure it out. But it's totally doable by anybody if you want to learn it.
You can learn everything you need to know on All Wheels Podcast.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. Well, sweet. Well, thanks for
and one more.
No. Oh God, here we go. All right. Nice thanks for talking about Barn Find Motorcycles with us. I think that was cool. So yeah, we'll see you next week, and check out allwheelspodcast.com. Email us at contact@allwheelspodcast.com, and Instagram is All Wheels Podcast. And yeah, we're working with our guy Ryan to do some marketing and stuff soon, I think. So hopefully you'll see some clips and stuff coming out soon through YouTube and Instagram and stuff. So we're gonna get to work on that.
Yeah, and feel free to tell your other butthead friends who are into possibly motorcycles, cars, trucks, whatever. And
yep, for sure.
Yeah, spread the word. We're even if we're talking to 5 people, we're still enjoying it.
Yep.
Yeah. Give us some feedback.
Right on. Oh, and we need to start asking if you can leave a review on Apple. If you listen through Apple, especially, I know the reviews, a written review and the stars or whatever makes a big difference on search rankings there. So I know I read about that, and I'm sure most podcast platforms or whatever have a review system or something. So if you listen and you can take a second to do it because that'll help us get some search results going. So
yeah, and if you want to leave us a 5-star, we'll read it out. And even if it's you hate it, leave it a 5-star, and we will read it out.
We'll read it.
Fair deal.
Fair deal. Yeah.
All right, right on. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Feel it on.